Consumers are increasingly using AI tools for product discovery, while retailers are deploying AI-powered agents to help with customer experience. But a true AI shopping agent is still rare to find, at least for now. In this episode of Conversations with Martech, we're continuing our discussions of AI and online retail, this time with Grant Deken, Director of Product at Klaviyo.
I'm Grant Deken, Director of Product here at Klaviyo, leading our autonomous service initiative. Really excited to be here today to talk about all things AI with you, Mike.
All right. Thanks for being here, Grant. Let's talk about AI and the shopping experience. Prior to the 2025 holiday season, we got all sorts of data about shoppers and using AI to help research purchases, even make purchases. What do you guys know about what shoppers are doing with AI and how do they feel about the experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting coming out of the holiday season, there was a lot of data, around how people were engaging. And I think what's interesting, just general, the sort of the macro pictures, the rate at which AI is sort of evolving, I think is sort of compressing the rate of change in consumer behavior and how people are engaging with tools and using different things for discovery, right? And so it's really quite interesting and I think unique compared to other technology cycles, like we saw around, maybe mobile, and things of the kind of previous sort of cycles that we've been through. I know we recently did some of our own research, and consumers, at least 60%, right, are using AI weekly, right? So this is becoming more a part of our daily routine. I think both in the workplace and at home or outside of that, where folks are defaulting their sort of search behavior, in more of these sort of AI native experiences. And actually really interesting, 41% we found have purchased a product that was recommended by AI in the last 6 months. So it is influencing behavior. And I think it's really becoming part of that top of funnel experience for how folks learn and discover. So you think about the full funnel, and where that sits, there's different points in which, folks are engaging, but certainly at the top of the funnel, where folks are sort of exploring and looking for things, as well as maybe mid funnel where folks are looking for, maybe more research, or trying to understand kind of, what reviews are like and kind of bringing that whole world together in one view. Whereas before, I think, maybe we'll talk about this a little bit, the behavior is quite different, right? You sort of start at, one place and a bunch of things we put in front of you. And then it was kind of on you as the consumer to go to all these different places to stitch together your own sort of narrative of whether or not you would want to buy something or go somewhere or, do anything really, right?
Yeah. But so it started at the top of the funnel with like visibility, that initial search. Like, how does the way that shoppers are using AI for their research differ from the way they used traditional search in the days before LLMs came around?
Yeah, well, I think there's kind of two paths there, right? There's kind of the more like the highest level entry path where you have this, you think about Google, right? Historically, you have this very like high intent moment where you're looking for a thing or things, or just like, feedback on something, right? And, the kind of, we were hinting at this a minute ago, you get presented with a bunch of stuff, right? Hey, here's, we rank order what we think you're looking for, 10, 20, 50 things. And again, then you as a consumer have to kind of go out, or historically would have to go out and kind of, go into each of those and again, stitch together, your own kind of point of view on this. And, I think here, with what we're seeing, with sort of the sort of largest platforms, whether it's, GPT or Gemini, or others, you have the ability to really bring that story together right in front of them. Right. And, so I think, you're really shortcutting, I think a lot of the work on the consumer to kind of start to frame up a point of view. Now, flip side of that, and one of the things people talk about, in the space is trust, right? Well, how do I know if this is the right information for me? How do I decide to put those things in front of me? So there's I think a trust and verify component to this. And I think you're going to start to see, the app marketplace, sort of play a role in this, where you're able to get, really high quality information from certain providers that have apps in these different places, to dig in further. And then also just getting, if that's sort of serving as that point of discovery, getting to that end brand or to that end provider, to actually go further, I think is really important. So one track of this, right, is at the sort of the aggregator level, being able to start the experience, researching for things or looking for things. But actually the behavior is also really interesting, when folks are going direct to consumer, right? And so we have a really strong belief here at Klaviyo that every single one of these brands is going to have, really well-tuned, well-trained, thoughtful, empathetic agents that are able to understand, engage with customers and provide, the high quality information that they're looking for to make a decision about, what is, what they're looking for. And I also think on a personal note, and I don't know if you would agree with this, but, as a consumer myself, right, we all are, part of the fun is the journey, right? The pursuit of something that you want, right, is, I think, part of it as well. And so I think the idea that we want to kind of defer all sort of thinking to the LLM, on what we buy, is also, I think, a little bit overstated, right? I think I, want to be able to go and explore, even in a digital context, touch and feel the products as much as I can. I actually think AI will create, new opportunities there to how we view and see, products on people and even maybe on ourselves, right? So there's a lot of opportunity there.
See, I can be a little bit impatient. And so what I like about the LLM search is, for some, I never had to think about this, but I do now, a significant number of my searches, I just want an answer. I didn't want a page full of links to go to see if I could find the answer. I just wanted the answer, right? And I think Google was catching on to that. You asked about the weather, told you what the weather was. It didn't send you to the weather site to get your answer anymore.
Yep.
But, I think for a lot of people, that's, okay, you asked the question, here's your answer. You're looking for this kind of product. Here's 5 of them. But like you said, it goes back to trust.
Yeah.
Like, how did those 5 get there?
Yeah. Trust and also context. I think not every search is a little bit different. The intent behind it's different. The consideration is different. If you're looking at, a t-shirt, is different than wanting to know the weather versus a luxury watch or an automobile, right? Right. The path to, start to finish looks very different for each of those. And then different for each of us individually. Right. And so I think that's a little bit of it as well. But yeah, definitely. I don't want to siphon through a bunch of ads and things like that to understand that, it's going to snow 6 inches tomorrow. Hopefully not. Will not.
We've had enough of that.
Yes.
You mentioned agents before, and we have heard about this world where consumers will deploy agents to do the shopping, and the merchants will deploy agents to go and meet the consumer agents and do the selling, and the commerce will, I don't know, just sort of happen. It's the last thing the mall industry needs, right? What do you think has to happen for something like that to become a reality?
Well, I think there's already sort of some very kind of gross examples of that now, where people are, using something like a Claude bot to say, hey, go buy me, something, and it has the ability to do that. So I think there will be a lot of kind of exploration around this of how, shopping behavior changes and, again, where people buy. I still think, to be honest with you, a lot of what, we're seeing at least today is AI is doing a great job with discovery and really helping consumers kind of go on the journey, but not doing the work for them in a way that's kind of disintermediating the consumer from the experience of buying. I actually think that matters a lot. And so, really, but regardless of that, I think it's really comes back to the data and the context that these agents have. The data and the data being really that sort of richness and access to whether that's product catalog, policies, and all the sort of technical details of of these things, and other data sources like reviews and what other shoppers are saying, and maybe third party. I think agents have the ability to, again, like we talked about, stitch all that together. And I think trust will continue to I think evolve and improve on that over time. And then I think on the flip side, what's really interesting is those that are either, helping us shop or shopping on our behalf, they need to understand us, right? They need to understand our preferences, what we like, what we don't like, our sizing, what other brands maybe, we sort of have an affinity for. And all that is like that context layer that matters a ton for kind of making the sort of the marriage work there. And so I think whether it's, consumers, just having better customer experiences, better shopping experiences, or completely autonomous experiences. I think those two things are the same, one and the same in terms of importance. So I think that's where we're going to start to see people really focus is, how am I being really thoughtful about the agents that I'm deploying, the context that I'm, providing, my data strategy and ensuring they have it. All those things matter a ton in today's world, as you know.
Yeah. As last week's guest pointed out, a simple example of the agent to agent commerce is a subscription. If you subscribe to get your t-shirts delivered every 8 weeks, you are kind of dipping your toes into that world. And when you put it that way, it's not that far off for consumers who right now, you're agent to agent and go, what?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great example, where, it's really executing the desires of the consumer there in a way that's like very well understood.
Yeah. Consumer use of AI has evolved quite a bit in a couple of years at this point, right? A lot of people jumped on the bandwagon early. A lot of people have just sort of used it to replace their traditional search every now and then. Some people have replaced traditional search almost entirely. Brands kind of evolve at a different rate with thinking about different things. So what do the sellers, the retailers need to do to keep up with the consumers and their evolving use of AI?
Yeah. I mean, I think this is something probably every brand feels and is facing right now. And it's not even just, I think, keeping up with, what other brands are doing, which is, always part of the conversation, but you hit the nail on the head, right? And you talked about this a little earlier, like the time compression, right? That is happening here is putting a lot of pressure on brands to sort of meet the bar that consumers have. And so, I would say like just very practically, it used to be, oh, this is something we're thinking about for late 26, or it's going to be part of the 27 plans. Like that really, I mean, my take is that won't fly anymore. You've got it. This has to be something that I think brands are, actioning now and thinking about, where and how do we want to orchestrate agents, getting up to speed on that. I think going from, many brands are sort of piloting and trying different things, but going from that sort of pilot phase to like, hey, what does this look like for us at scale? And how does this drive meaningful impact for us as a business, but also meet the bar that, that consumers are setting for us as well. And then being adaptable to changing. I think one of the good things here is I think it's going to continue the barriers to deploying these things and the barriers to maintaining them and governing them and scaling them. They're going to continue to come down, right? There's a lot of people working on this. We wake up every day obsessing about how to solve this for our customers, powerful, but approachable, right? Is sort of the mantra that we have at least. And so I think that's kind of like the silver lining that I would say with the sort of statement. It's like, you've got to make it a priority. It's got to be part of kind of the now plan, not the later plan. I think to really stay kind of in the game with consumers. As technology shifts, as sort of, again, as discovery, where people discover things shifts, right? Kind of adapting to all that. But again, yeah, I think on the flip side, it's going to get easier, smarter, faster to do the things that brands need to do if they're willing to kind of put the work in and sort of take action.
We're at one of those moments, right? Like I think the one that people still cite all the time is Blockbuster and Netflix. The consumers just woke up one day and changed the way they did things.
Yeah.
And
yeah, but also people remember that for, Netflix also started with, kiosks where you would go and, rent your discs, and then it was mail order. That was a different one.
Yeah.
But for a time they carried both sort of methods, right? And then, eventually the discs went away and, this is all streaming. And so, yeah, we're crossing that where, very, very quickly, and it's going to happen a lot faster than I think the Blockbuster moment. And I don't know that everybody appreciates that. I think folks who are in it every day certainly do, but the rate of change is pretty incredible.
Grant Deken, Director of Product at Klaviyo. Thanks for joining us on Conversations with MarTech.
Thanks so much, Mike.